everyone. Our Meth Connects Wholesale Roadshow rolls on. I'm pleased to introduce Isabelle Paradis. Welcome, Isabelle. Hi.
Hello, James. Good morning.
Hello. Another analyst and research company ultimately in the show as well. So thank you for coming along. You're going to be continuing where Nitin started off talking about roaming. We've got a lot more to talk about with regards to roaming. So I'll leave you up to it to introduce your panelists and speakers and enjoy the show and have a lovely session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, James. I'm sure it will be very exciting considering the topic today of 5G roaming. So good morning, everyone. Good afternoon for those joining us from Asia. Did you know that by 2025, there will be close to 3 billion 5G subscribers, almost doubling to what we have today? So as we embrace this 5G revolution, one challenge lies front and center and has done for some time, which is roaming. So today during this panel, we're going to deep dive into this challenge with experts who live and breathe roaming, some of our industry's roaming superstars, as they will share the complexities and trends that they see in 5G and what it brings to the roaming world. So get ready for an eye-opening session, everyone, and a discussion that will bring the next wave of roaming. And without further ado, I would like to introduce my panelists. Firstly, Thomas Therkildsen, Senior Business Development Director at Syniverse. Then we have Aymeric Castelain. He's Manager Mobile Service Products at Orange International Carrier. Tandria Enrique Afonso. She's Managing Director at Telefonica Global Roaming. And finally, last but not least, from Ireland, David McTague is CTO of Cellusys. Everyone, welcome to the panel. Are you ready?
Thank you.
Sure. Good to go.
Come on,
Thank
guys,
you.
you have to be ready. I'm going to put you, to the test, so you have to be ready. So we've been doing this panel on 5G roaming overall for the last 3 years in this event at MEF Wholesale. And I always like to start with the beginning. And the beginning is, what is the status of 5G roaming? We've been talking about it for a long time at Hot Telecom when we used to do our statistics and forecasts. We used to talk about 5G roaming, VoLTE roaming, and so on. But where are we at today? Is it finally happening? And maybe to get us started, Thomas, maybe you can go first. What do you see as the current status of 5G roaming?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Isabelle, and lovely to be on the panel. 5G roaming is, I think there are a few things we need to look at in terms of flavors as to how that proposition comes about in the industry. So at Syniverse, of course, we are connected to many mobile operators, and we do see a very strong conversation on 5G roaming these days. It's fair to say that many MNOs and carriers have spent the last year or so beginning to get their building blocks in place to execute on 5G roaming. Of course, there are many 5G roaming non-standalone services already in the market. I think what the industry is really looking forward to, and what we will discuss more today, will be on 5G standalone roaming. So a good track in terms of engagement and conversation on this topic. We do still see that 5G SA roaming needs to be properly launched for commercial purpose in the market.
Do you see more traction from operators requesting roaming agreements and interconnect? Because we've talked about it for a long time and we say, yes, it's coming. Has it finally come? This is what operators are asking for.
Yeah, so we can certainly see that if we look across the industry, that the conversation that relates to 5G roaming, as I mentioned, the different building blocks, that conversation is really increasing. And we are certainly expecting to see more traction on this topic as we roll into 2024. I think it's fair to say that many have been concerned about getting, you could say, leaving COVID behind, upgrading capacities, where we see that there is an uptick in travel patterns with lots more international traffic now. So we see many operators who have been preparing their infrastructures for more bandwidth, more roaming agreements, and filling the gaps, so to say. And we believe that moving forward, there's going to be a stronger emphasis on 5G SA roaming.
Okay. What about the other panelists? Do you agree? Do you see the same trend? And maybe Enrique and Tandria, what do you see more specifically in Orange and Telefonica? Enrique, maybe you can go first. What do you agree with Thomas, number one, and what's your
Yeah,
reaction to Orange more specifically?
I really think so there were a lot of complexity in deploying the 5G NSA. So for most of our affiliates, it's part it was done in the past years, and now we can see a trend on this 5G NSA deployment. It's not yet deployed everywhere, but we really think that the following years, the coming year will be really important in terms of 5G asset deployment. So I agree. The trend is going up.
Okay. What about you, Tandria? What do you see at Telefonica? Where are you at with your 5G roaming deployment?
Yeah, so I agree. There is for sure traction. There's appetite to start working on 5G standalone, but as Thomas mentioned before, there are building blocks that need to be put in place, and I think still the industry is focused on getting up these building blocks like VoLTE roaming, for example. We've been speaking about VoLTE roaming for the past years, and we are working now on really getting this technology deployed, in the way that we need it to really be able to launch 5G on top of this. The same happens with LP1 networks. I think these are the elements that the industry is focused at, and as we were saying before, 2024 will be the year where we will see more 5G standalone kicking off.
Okay, let's hope so, because I remember in Hot Telecom we used to forecast 5G roaming starting in 2018, 19, and then obviously the pandemic happened, so things were put on hold. So let's hope 2024 is their year of 5G roaming. But I guess with 5G roaming comes VoLTE roaming. That's another topic attached to that. What do you see in terms of VoLTE roaming? Any traction? I don't know, Tandria. Do you see any traction on your side for VoLTE roaming?
Yes, absolutely. As I was saying, I think VoLTE roaming is one of the key elements that industry is focused now, and we need to deploy widely in order to get the coverage there with VoLTE roaming. But I see that there is appetite in the industry also for going this way. So it took us a while. It was not easy to launch, but I think now we are in the right path, to really deploy it. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's happening as we speak, and by 2024 things will accelerate. So what can we expect for the future, for the near future and the far future for 5G? Looking into the future, what is the next step, number one, and what should we expect? Maybe Aymeric, what can you bring? What is your vision for 5G?
Do you hear me well? It's good for.
Yes.
Oh, good. So as you know, we for 5G requires new security tools, as we call the SEP, so Security Edge Protection Proxy, and I think it's the next development. We know that for now we can implement the SEP in different ways, with each come with benefits and potential challenges. And for now, we know that bilateral design in this approach, each operator has their own SEP, and the IPX carrier transport message across the network with no knowledge of what they contain. And so far, the bilateral design is the only approach that was approved by the GSMA. But we know that there will be a lot of challenge with this bilateral approach, because, for example, an operator could have hundreds of connections to his SEP, so it could be quite complicated to manage. And so there are still discussion within the GSMA in order to go forward on two other scenarios, which are outsourced SEP, where the IPX carrier implements one SEP in their network, and that's the IPX carrier that manage the complexity of the security, and also the hosted SEP. In this model, each operator has its own SEP, which they connect to the hosted SEP on the IPX carrier premises. And so on those questions, there will be maybe challenges in terms of security, but we really think that we need to simplify for operators the implementation of 5G, and to us the security part and so the set part will be very important and part of the technical challenge in order to have a good 5G and a quick 5G deployment.
Okay. Danielle, you've been very quiet. It's very dangerous to be quiet on one of my panels. You should know that by now. So, Danielle, what do you think? What do you see for the future of 5G? What's up? What's coming up?
I think security is sort of the center of all this. I mean, one of the main benefits that are coming with 5G is this inbuilt security. It's a large step ahead of what we had in SS7 and diameter, simply because we get things like attribution, we have confidentiality protection, but it comes with a cost as well. Ultimately, I have to have a security relationship with the other side in order to secure the connection. So that's that's where all the conversation revolves around, as Aymeric mentioned. It's like, how do we get these different models? How do we satisfy the needs of operators who traditionally lean on the IPX for a lot of services, who lean on the IPX for a lot of connectivity? How do we enable that in 5G? I think is a big challenge. And that's where all the conversation is at the moment. So that's going to continue, but there isn't really one answer or one accepted method yet. And I think that is a big challenge going forward. Uncertainty of deployment models is a challenge for operators today. So I think that's where the conversation will continue. We will see a rollout with some bilateral. We'll see some trials led by IPX, I think, as well, for alternative models. But there's still a lot of fragmentation. So I do think that conversation has quite a distance to go yet.
Okay. And sorry about the sound. I don't know if something can be done to improve the quality of the sound. All of us, I think, are cutting in and out. So let's hope we can fix that. But so I'm a marketing person. I'm a product person. I like to know where the money is and how will the money work. So I guess looking forward, what can we expect in terms of business model? In the past, during these panels, we've talked about the business model evolving. Are we seeing that, first of all? And is that going to evolve? What can we expect when it comes to business model? Maybe Tandria, what's your view about the business model future evolution?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, so we will see, or how I see the future developments is that we'll find ourselves in a completely new connectivity context. So we'll see different technologies coexisting. So we'll have 5G, and within 5G we will see, of course, the low power wide area networks that will allow us to satisfy or serve specific needs of the IoT market. But we will also see the network slicing, which will bring opportunities in terms of dedicating specific network resources to cover specific customer needs. And we'll see also other developments that will bring opportunities that will coexist, will be like direct to mobile satellite services, so will be complementary to the actual 5G services. We'll see also other developments like the open gateway, which will bring other opportunities in the integration of new customer needs in terms of security and service availability. So I think we'll find a completely new environment that will be served in this new 5G context.
Okay. Anyone seeing anything different? Anything want to add something to that, Thomas? Or
yeah, I think it's a very good observation that the wholesale market as such is changing these years. We are beginning to see more sophistication in the wholesale charging and billing models on a wholesale level, we're beginning to see that MNOs increasingly need to be able to serve new types of customers. The roaming relationships are no longer just operator to operator, but as Tandria explains, they are operator to satellite, they are operator to private network, and there could also be operator to sponsor providers. So the complexity, although it is increasing, it also brings new business opportunity. And this is a good time to be in wholesale domain. No matter if you're looking at 4G or 5G, operators have increasingly stronger opportunity to satisfy new types of customers. And when it comes to the quality of service parameters that we discuss, then that also brings opportunity, because by investing in the wholesale networks, there is now an opportunity to bring quality of service and class of service parameters to these new types of customers, which from our perspective, we certainly already see the outline of this commercial model changing and evolving. And we believe that's a positive step for the industry.
Okay. Anyone else wants to add anything before I move on to the complexity of it all and the challenges that come with 5G roaming?
I would just add to that, Isabelle. I mean, I would agree with that point about quality, and it is important because a lot of the kind of promises we're getting from 5G, or what we're supposed to get from new use cases, a lot of that is IoT focused. Things like network slicing, where we can have dedicated resources to get a dedicated quality. That's a big part of the 5G promise, or what we're supposed to be able to do that we couldn't do in the past. But with IoT, a lot of it is global and mobile, and roaming is a big part of that. If you want to have this seamless global service, which a lot of enterprise will want. But where I can create a network slice on my own network to guarantee quality is fine. I control that. But if I'm relying on my roaming partner to maintain the same quality, how do I manage that? And I think today it doesn't really, I don't have that guarantee in most cases anyway. So there is a chance to differentiate on quality here, which I think was kind of part of the point Thomas was making as well. So I would agree that quality when it comes to roaming is going to be increasingly important. Okay.
And everyone watching, if you have any questions to give our panelists, to put them on the spot, please don't hesitate. So I guess with all this complexity, there's many unknowns still, and there's a lot of things coming up that will transform the way roaming works. There comes many challenges. What do you think are the main challenges of making 5G a reality? Maybe, Daniel, we ended with you, but why don't you tell us, what do you think are the main challenges?
I think, as we kind of discussed earlier, in one level, it's the uncertainty of the models is a challenge. We'll get there. That will just take iteration and iterations of work to get there. But the other big one for me is that we're sort of at the beginning of a new rollout. You know, we've got, let's say, LTE launched in most networks across the world, between most networks. But we're at square one again now. We have to relaunch service here. We have the security element I mentioned as well, which is a challenge as well. But given the amount of effort there, and considering the security element that brings extra complexity, we need a lot of resources to actually roll out. And we're using an IREG and testing process that is essentially 30 years old. It's very manual, very repetitive, and it's really not sustainable. Roaming teams in general are a bit smaller than they were before, but we have a massive undertaking of work. We have growing complexity. And the way I would see it is that operators really need to invest in automation. We can't keep doing boilerplate work while we have so much other complexity to deal with. We have to farm away to the machine what we can. Anything repetitive has to be automated. And for me, across the whole sort of business, automation should be the top of every operator's agenda, in my opinion.
Okay. What about the ecosystem? How is this going to impact the ecosystem? What type of challenges will it bring to the ecosystem? Because I think not everyone will be able to do 5G roaming. Is there going to be more outsourcing? What will the ecosystem look like? Who wants to go with that one?
Yeah, I think I can take a first stab at it, if you will. And I wanted to come back to one of the points that Aymeric mentioned concerning the SEP model and the IPX engagement. So if we think about the ecosystem today, it's mobile network operators who roam with each other, and there are 400, 500 roaming agreements in place for every single MNO. Now, as Daniel says, this is a fairly big complexity, and the industry is challenged by moving to a level of automation in managing these relationships. So the ecosystem needs to embrace the automation in terms of streamlining the work processes that relate to opening up new services. And I think it's also important that when you think about rolling out your 5G roaming capability, that you think about the SEP infrastructure and how to most efficiently put that in place. No one says that your SEP needs to be able to manage every single relationship, because after all, the industry is not putting an equal amount of traffic into every single relationship. So there could be good reasons why you would want to tier that model according to the most efficient ways of producing the traffic. And that will potentially open up for changes in the ecosystem, I believe. So those are some of the items that are worth discussing as we see changes in the ecosystem.
Okay. Anyone else agrees with Thomas? Thomas, or disagrees? We like it when
Yeah.
people disagree. Come on, guys. Come start disagreeing a bit more.
Sorry, I agree on this, and maybe more to me, what is really important is also the digital customer journey. So for now, a lot of our business can be made through traditional channels, and I really think that with 5G and automation, we need to be those distribution model to change. So I think we need by automation with digital customer journey. The industry need to change in terms of distribution. So
Okay.
it's quite
So Aymeric, you're on the hot seat. I'll keep you there. We've talked about challenges, complexity, but what type of new opportunities will 5G roaming bring? I'm sure it comes maybe with private networks, IoT. Daniel mentions network slicing.
Yeah.
Any new opportunities to make more revenue or to become more efficient, maybe?
Maybe for first coming to the basics, so we really think that there will be an increase in traffic, so increase in roaming revenue. So maybe it's not a new topic, but part of the discussion is also that with increasing traffic with IoT, we think that there will be new organic revenues coming from 5G. But as you say, network slicing is also a great opportunity that can be used for enterprise, also with IoT, with industry, smart industries, smart agriculture. So we really think that it will give new opportunities. And also on edge computing, we will there is an opportunity that can be used to deliver content to roaming user with lower latency. For example, not having to go back to the home network and to do local breakouts, for example, on those on roaming customer. So
Okay.
to
What
deliver
about
augmented reality, virtual reality, also to roaming users.
What about 4G private networks and 5G private networks? Any opportunities there? Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a good question. I mean, today we have in the industry, we have 3, 4, 5 mobile network operators in every country. But if we fast forward and we look at the speed at which licenses are being given out for private networks in North America, in Europe and elsewhere, then, a few years from now, we will have 10, 15, 20 networks in every country. And of course, there's an opportunity here for the incumbent operators to extend their reach and to ensure that devices that are provisioned in a private network, can also utilize the network assets that are being brought by the incumbent operator. And of course, the industry needs to find new ways of interconnecting these networks, and also establish the right commercial models to support that.
Okay. Anyone else? Any new opportunities you see, Tandria?
Yes, just wanted to add to the fact that we are discussing now about all these new opportunities. I completely agree with this approach, and I think one relevant aspect is that all these opportunities need to be reflected also in the roaming agreements. So we are seeing that the requirements are now completely different to what we have been observing up to now. So we are speaking about, or we're going to speak about latency, quality. We're going to speak about coverage. And this is something that needs to be reflected in the roaming agreements that will reshape our agreements. And this is another focus point of the industry. If we really want to have roaming continuing being this plug and play solution, for the international connectivity. So that's another aspect in order to monetize first, and also in order to ensure the quality of the service that we want to provide to our customers.
Okay, Danielle, any new opportunities for Cellusys to make money with 5G?
For us, yes. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's slicing and carrying that to the roaming space, I think, is a challenge, but also a big opportunity. Where am I going to, for example, steer my IoT devices? I'm going to steer to a network that's going to give me quality that I've promised. If I have some assurances contractually that they're going to actually give me a certain level of service, which of course comes with some complexity to manage that. But the thing is, I think, in reality, when it comes to roaming, we're really just trying to walk at this point before we can run. We're just trying to establish the connectivity. That itself is difficult enough before we really start looking at all these use cases. But the one thing we get out of the box, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a revenue opportunity, but it's a huge improvement for the industry, is security. It's at a level that it's just way ahead of SS7 and diameter. Now, it doesn't solve every security woe, but it's certainly a big improvement. And as somebody who works in the security space as well, it's just a huge improvement, and it's a really welcome initiative in the specs for 5G. So for me, the immediate opportunity is security. Longer term quality of roaming is the big focus.
Okay. So I guess what it brings us to, we've talked about where we were at, where we're going, the challenges of going there, maybe some new opportunities, but what are the keys to success to making 5G a reality? What are the things that need to happen and for all the different stakeholders to do to make 5G a reality and a success? I don't know, Tandria, what do you think? What are the things that need to take place to make 5G a reality? 5G roaming, rather.
Yeah, sure. No, well, I think it's very much connected to what I was saying before. So for me, roaming is a plug and play solution for international connectivity. And in this new connectivity context that the 5G standalone will bring, roaming-based solutions will play a central role by allowing the combination of technologies. So as mentioned before, aspects such as quality, latency, and coverage are key to serve these new needs. And so from my perspective, it's the ability of the industry to manage all these new requirements in the roaming agreements that will allow us to, or that are the keys, for the success of 5G roaming. So we need to enter into aspects that up to now were not relevant. So we really need to deep dive into security aspects, into topics that were not considered so far because they were not relevant to provide the service. And now we have to really cover these, set up a new frame that should allow us to serve the needs of the industry in the future.
Okay. Anyone else? What else needs to take place to make 5G roaming a reality? Aymeric?
Yeah, we can. Another topic I could talk about is about our IT. So on roaming, we really need to have a modern and performant IT in order to be able to build, in order to be able to support new business model. So to me, there are huge work to be done into the industry on the IT part to be able to get these new opportunities that are not in the initial way of doing things on roaming. So very important part on IT.
Okay, Thomas, anything else you think needs to take place to make 5G roaming reality?
I think it's coming back to some of the things that made 4G roaming successful. We've discussed security and the importance that this plays in terms of enabling the industry to launch a proper 5G SA roaming testing. That's clearly important. For me, it's about coming back to sort of ensuring that all the building blocks that we spoke about initially, that they actually stack up and that they are put in place at the right time to allow for the services to be launched and monetized successfully. It's little things like moving from your TAP interface to the new GSMA recommended BCE interface for monetizing 5G traffic. It's the testing. I think we shouldn't underestimate how much testing we need to make as an industry going forward for the next 6 months at least to ensure that we capture all of the SEP scenarios that Aymeric spoke about. So there are a few things that need to be in place both technically but also commercially to make this a success.
Okay, Daniel, what's your keys to success to 5G roaming?
As well as what was said, I mean, ultimately, certainty about deployment models. Again, repeated that a few times, but that's important, obviously. I think from a kind of a softer point of view as well, I think flexibility is a big part here. There's a lot of disagreement about how one organization wants to do things or thinks things should be done and how another one does as well. And finding ways to accommodate that, I don't think we're going to reach a single solution here that everybody's going to agree with. So we have to be able to support a kind of a hybrid interconnection model. We need the flexibility to do that. And I do think as well, from the testing point of view, I mean, the difficulty of rollout, for me, one of the keys to success is making that easier. It's prohibitive at the moment for, it's kind of a daunting task for operators to consider trying to roll this out across the world with all their partners again. And that's something that needs to be addressed. Maybe isn't required to make it successful, but it would be the most sensible way of doing it. And the last thing I would say as well as, let's say, improving the process for how we can launch services or test services, I think another big part of this is visibility as well, is knowing what's happening. Because again, even beyond 5G, with roaming, we're in a really complex world now. We still have SS7 going all the way back. We have diameter. We're adding HTTP2. We had VoLTE. Now the IMS is involved. For everything, I think we just need to have good visibility what's happening as well, because there's just so many things that can go wrong now. There's so many things that need attention that we need to be able to see that as easy as possible. We need to be able to action that again through automation. So there's a long answer to a simple question, but flexibility, automation, and certainty would be my my answer to that, Isabelle.
Okay. And I see James is in the background. He has a very good question, actually, about customers. As everyone keeps saying, everything's about customers. So how has the introduction of 5G impacted global roaming experience for the average customer? Or has it at all? Or is it going to in the future? Who wants to take that one? Tandria?
Yeah, so maybe I can go first. Well, I think what we were speaking before, up to now we have the experience with 5G non-standalone, and there the difference is mainly referred to speed, to speed in accessing in the service provision. And this is something that, well, from a consumer perspective, I think that the difference is not that relevant. So because we were already at a level of service provision, that does not make a big difference. I think the difference will come with 5G standalone, and it is, from my perspective, more referred to industrial solutions than to consumers, because at the end, from a consumer perspective, you may have access to better speed in the service provision, but it's more from an industrial perspective that we're going to see difference there, or the key difference.
Okay. Aymeric, I know at Orange it's very important for you to have the customer experience, the customer journey. Have you seen any difference, or do you think we will in the future?
Actually, 5G for the radio part, effectively, it gives the best speed, the best latency, but maybe you can see it as a customer on standard use case when you navigate or check your mails, or maybe even with some video. But we think that in the future there will be a use case that needs those kind of latency, that needs this kind of bandwidth. But for now, I agree, the use cases are mainly on the B2B side. On the consumer side, it's that is a huge difference in terms of user experience. On the roaming part, though, as we talk about latency, I think it will be very important, because for now we still have a lot of traffic that comes back to the home network, so that add a lot of latency. So to me, the user experience will be really better with 5G roaming. That's our main use cases. Yeah.
Okay, Thomas, anything to add to what Tandria and Aymeric have said?
Not much, really. I think it's fair to say that there's definitely a retail view, and there's a B2B view, and as the industry progresses, the B2B perspective on defining and provisioning a 5G roaming experience becomes more and more important. We already spoke about quality of service, but certainly I think what we notice is that the buying experience that enterprises are going through, it tends to shift a little bit more on, what can 5G do for us, and what are the use cases that we have inside our factory, inside our logistics capability, inside our smart digital services that can benefit from 5G, and that conversation is increasing in importance. So it's no longer just going to be about speeds and broadband. It will increasingly be about the quality of service that's being provided.
Okay. I guess everyone's talking about AI at the moment. It's on everyone's mind and everyone's lips. Any impact do you think AI will play on 5G roaming, or optimizing the 5G roaming space? Who's brave enough to do that? I think Daniel wants to take that one.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. I'll say the word for about the fifth time, automation. But in general, we don't, again, this is about having less time, or we want to spend less time on things we can automate. Now, where we see roamers, for example, having experience issues, we would ideally like to detect that and take action immediately. Now, sometimes that doesn't need AI necessarily. That can be much more simple to say, I have a customer who can't use data. The GTP session failed. I should try and steer them somewhere else. Maybe they'll get data there. I mean, that can be really simple detection points. Or again, it can get as advanced as you want with AI. Can we see some roaming behaviors that are worse on one network than another? Should that be a driver for me to automatically move to another network for my subscribers? So yeah, I think it absolutely has a role to play. But I think there's also a lot of improvement we can make without needing something that advanced.
Okay. Now I'm going to be a bit naughty. Not that I'm ever naughty. We've been having this 5G roaming discussion for a while now. Looking forward, What about 6G roaming? I know it's far down the line. What do you think? Is it ever going to happen? Is it going to be very different to 5G roaming? Looking in in your crystal balls down the line, are you having discussions? Are you starting to think about 6G roaming?
I
Who's
can
brave
say
enough
that,
to take that?
that
Yes, Danielle?
we are. I can say that we are not really considering it very strongly now, Isabelle. I would only say that I hope by the time 6G roaming comes, we have a more streamlined rollout process. But
so otherwise, we might all be retired by the time it starts to come into action.
we could only hope. We could only hope.
You're still young, Danielle. Don't start. I'm talking for myself. Aymeric and Tandria, any discussions on 6G roaming in your organizations?
Well, it's not our key focus right now, Isabelle. So we're still discussing on 5G, and really, so with from my perspective, I don't think that it will bring or it will be that disruptive as 5G will be.
Okay.
So for me, the big step will be 5G, but yes, let's see where we are.
Let's see.
When it
Okay.
comes.
All right. So I guess to close our panel, I always like to do that, to leave the audience with a concept, an idea, a go-to action. What each of you would like to say, people watching us today, in regards to 5G roaming, to make it a success, to address the challenges, to take part? What is the one message you think is important for the audience to remember today? Maybe Aymeric, what is your message to the audience today to close our panel?
To me, is really to take a close look at the security part, because it will be a huge challenge for the 5G. So
okay,
that's my
look
main
at security. Tandria?
Yeah.
For me, it's let's make it or let's adapt the roaming agreements and focus on adapting the roaming agreements to the new needs in order to keep roaming being like the plug and play solution that we are having for the international connectivity.
Okay. Thomas, what is your message to the audience?
Yeah, my message would be, get involved. Don't expect that you will make perfect 5G as a test on day one. Recognize that it will be a learning curve, and that it may be steep and it might be a bumpy ride. But the best advice is really to begin, because that will teach you how to get everything set in your network and play out the different test scenarios.
Okay. And finally, Danielle, last but not least, what's your message to the audience?
Invest in automation. That's I think it just enables everything else. I mean, even the level of control I can have, do I need to outsource everything because I don't have the resources? Well, if my robot in my network can do it instead, maybe I can maintain control myself. It just introduces flexibility and efficiency. So for me, automation.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, panelists. I think we've covered quite a lot of ground today in a very short time. There's still a lot of work to do on 5G roaming to make it a true reality. So get back to work, everyone. So thank you, everyone, and good luck for the next panel. Up to you, Susie. Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.